Hello, welcome once again to Yahushas Call with yours truly, Myra Waiters. Want to welcome you to this broadcast. Happy to have you with us. Shalom and all the peace that Yah has to give us. Let it be yours. Got a good subject on today. Want you to uh, get your pens and paper out if you need to. We're going to take some notes if you need. We're going to talk about a paper written by Katie Cannon, Geneva Cannon, by the way. And I found this article, and it's so informative, and I wanted to share it with you along with a couple other things about the nation we live in. And when I talk about this, I'm talking about this angle, the angle from the um, Yehuda's perspective. All right, and so I want you to understand that. Excuse me, I'm trying to catch a little bit, but I'm not going to catch it. I'm going to throw that cold right back where it come from. Let's move on because I want to read this article. It's very short, and then I want to take you into some other things because I think before I read it, I better let you know this. We are um, living again in the land of our captivity. Yes, we somewhat freedom, but we're yet in the land of our captivity, and I like to remind you of that. It keeps you alert, it keeps you aware. There's three things you should always know: who you are in Yahuwah, who He is, and where you are. Who you are in Yahuwah, who He is, and where you are. Because those three things will keep you knowledgeable and balanced and understanding and powerful. Because one of the things that we have a problem with today is people don't know who they are, they don't know whose they are, and they don't know where they are. They don't know who they are. All right? They don't know who they belong to, and they don't know where they are. Some people think that they're really at home right here in America. I'm talking to you, Yehudas now, but they're not. And they put themselves in vulnerable positions, and they get caught up in thinking that they're free, and they're not totally free here. And then they get into sometimes ambiguous problems. Things that didn't have to happen are happening because you don't know who you are. Israelites, Yehudas, tribe of Judah. That's all it means. You don't know that you belong to Yah, that you're His people, and you don't know where you are. You're not in your homeland. All right. Those things you must always know. And with that, let's look at Christianity. Christianity is a religion. Anyone boasting to be a person that is a Christian does not necessarily mean that they know Yahuwah. More than likely, I find they do not. But when a person says, I'm under the banner of Christianity, you don't know what you're talking about, Yehuda. I'm talking to those, well, that's true for across the board, but right now I'm talking to my people or those who have Gentiles who have come over to join us. I'm talking to you too. So let me read something to you from Katie. And it says, the transatlantic trade in Africans was founded on Christianity. Religion was key in motivating Prince Henry of Portugal, later called Henry the Navigator, 1394 to 1460. To put it in modern Europe's aggressive and ruthless expeditions, to put in motion Europe's aggressive and ruthless expeditions to Africa. Henry was not only the navigator of Algarve province, who managed a large economic infrastructure, but on the unbridled grasp of enormous wealth from Trans-Saharan commerce. But he was also the administrator of the order of the Messiah, he says, of the Christ. The Portuguese successor to the Knights Templar, a famous Western military order founded in the aftermath of the First Crusade, at Claremont on November 27th, 1095. As one of the best fighting units, the Soldiers of Christ prompted a series of striking maritime exploits, ensuring the safety of Europeans who made their pilgrimages to Jerusalem, like bodyguard unit. It is important to note that during this historical period, the feudal states of European countries were just beginning to unite, and just beginning now. And major religious wars were being fought between Christians and Muslims. When this word Christians come up, this is Christians based in Rome, run by the Pope, not the Pope, actually, Pope and should say the emperor, whoever was emperor at that time of Rome. All right. So, during this period, these feudal states of European countries were just beginning to unite, and major wars were being fought between Christians and Muslims, especially the Moors of Morocco. These were black indigenous people, powerful people, artistic people. Henry trained men to sail from Portugal down the west coast of Africa in search of the limits to the Muslim world in order to halt Islamization of West Africa and to accelerate the spread of Christianity. In order to further God's intentions for mankind, he felt, this is their feeling, Ogbu Kulu contends that within the contrast of religious logic, papal, from the Pope, papal bulls offered rights of patronage. Bulls, I want to go back to that, offered rights of patronage to Henry, authorizing him to appoint clerical orders for evangelicalization and to fend off competing European interests, according to Peter Russell, Henry the Navigator, and so on and so forth. We tend to want to blanket our eyes over when it comes to facts. Christianity played a huge role in the slavery trade, slavery trade, the transatlantic in particular, but not just the transatlantic, because European slave trade, basically in England and elsewhere as well. I want to read to you something about the transatlantic slave trade and Christianity. But before I do, I want to read the first paragraph of the Gettysburg Address. I want to talk about democracy, where it came from, and then we're going to get into what democracy really is. All right. So, really, democracy, I call it demon-ocracy, is a hoax. It's not. It's not what you think it is. It sounds good. We go through here and murder all these men, women, and children over here in Iraq and Iran and wherever else we want to bomb and kill, and we say we do it in the name of democracy. Well, let's figure out what democracy is, and then we'll get back into the slave trade. To begin with, you have to keep in mind that Greek democracy, after which the Western democracies were patterned, and I want to stop here because Greek government did not come from Greeks. Greek government came from Egypt. Okay. Ran on a slave labor. A democracy is a slave labor camp. I'm going to prove it to you. Most of the mundane work of Greek society, mundane is true, was carried out by a large workforce of slaves. So when you say America patterned themselves after Greek democracy, let's look and see what they were doing. Does that make sense? Right. Then you can see why America ended up becoming, through religious practice, a slave trading nation, slave a using nation, and abusive slave owner nation. So, most of the mundane work of Greek society was carried out by a large workforce of slaves who, like the feudal serfs and early American black slaves, Hebrew, Israelite, Yehudi slaves, exerted virtually no influence over their masters. Additionally, the majority of the Greek population, comprised collectively of the slaves plus Greek women, were prohibited from voting. Now, this is the pattern they say that American democracy is patterned after, is this Greek pattern. But you see, remember, we had to. They had they had to get the whites. They had to get the rights of women here in America to vote. Anyway, let's go on. So, in the sense that Americans use the word democracy, Greece did not have a democracy because much less than half the population voted. And if you stop and think about it today, that's what's going on. Revamping all of these regions and in these states to try to accommodate the presidential candidate that they want to put in place. So what they're doing is also giving people of color a difficult way, especially those of you call them African Americans, I call them Hebrews, trying to stop Hebrews from getting to the polls, coming up with all kind of ridiculous laws and rules to prohibit them and make it so difficult for them, closing a lot of the polls so people with no transportation can't hardly get there. Oh yeah, this is democracy, all right. It's exactly what the Greeks were doing too. All right, let's look at the word democracy. What does democracy mean? If you look up in your dictionary, democracy, it's a system of government. And you know what that means when you say government. Who is really ruling? Government by the whole population. Or, now see that word or is right there in the middle of it. Right there in the middle, saints. It says, or all the eligible members of a state. Let's go over that again while I put my little robe back on here. Listen at this. I got to get this again. It says, or all the eligible members of a state. Or, that word is big. Because that's really what it is. Certain members of a state have certain rights that others don't have. All right. All right. Let's say it again. Or all the eligible members of a state, typically through elected representatives. That's what you got. That's what democracy is. Don't have fantasy views on what democracy is. What the world thinks, what this nation thinks, that's on them. I'm talking to you, Yehuda. I'm talking to you, Israelites. I'm talking to you, Gentiles who have come into the light. When you speak up democracy, you're not saying very much. You're talking about a slave-driven, the ones that have the most take from the ones who have the least type society, a capitalistic hodgepodge of mess. I want to read something, and I called the Gettysburg Address, and I don't have who wrote this, but I had to just read this one part, the first part of the Gettysburg Address, and I go to the last part. 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, stolen from the indigenous people, conceived in liberty for whites and bondage for blacks, and dedicated to the proposition that all men except black are created equal. That's really the way they meant it. So I'm just reading what they meant, because we've been trying to make it say something else for so long. And then let's get to the last part. And that government of the people, this is the last portion of the Gettysburg Address. And that government of the people, we know what people, we just found out it's the people that are eligible members of the society. That government of the people by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. That's a big that's a big statement. You might think that they think they're God, huh? That's psychosis. That's what that is. Government of the people. Of who people? Of the white people. Of the Caucasoid people. By the people. That's us. Those are low income slaves and all the rest of them they can throw in that pot that they can manipulate and rob. We're the by the people. Okay? I want you to know who you are. For the people. So it's for the people are those with. By the people are without. And this form of government is what it's saying shall not perish from the earth. But it's going to perish, saints. And it's going to perish because Yahusha's coming to put an end to this and set up his own kingdom. There's going to be a new heaven and a new earth. Hallelujah. The last laugh we will have. I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, I had to bring in some other things, but I'll have to do it. I might have to do this one in two parts because it's kind of lengthy. But let's look at something else. The Atlantic slave trade again. Let's go back to that. Now that we've gotten democracy out of the way. And I mean, it is out of the way. Okay. The Bible contains many references, we know, to slavery. And so people then worked as slaves. Some were permanent because they have chosen. They had so much time to, Hebrew Israelites, you had so much time to keep a slave and then release them. And after that point, they could stay if they wanted to. They would put a ring in their ear at the doorpost and say, okay, you're permanent. You don't want to go. That was a choice. So what happens is we take Christianity, takes it on, and says, well, look, it's in the Bible. We can make slaves. We can do slavery. We can do it. We can do some slavery. So what do they do? They don't do it according to scripture. They go over there. They ain't had a war and keep slaves. No, no, no. They go over to a peaceful people, huh? And they cause debauchery. They cause them mental anguish and stress, and they murder and they pillage and they kill and they drag out slaves. They kidnapped them out of where they were and brought them here. That's not the Bible slavery. That's called men stealers. And the Bible says you're going to hell for men stealing. Simple as that. And if you condone it, even in your psyche, you're still a slaver to this very day. If you think there's some justification for what you did, you're still going to have to see the flame. You're going to have to, them flames going to lick you up good because you find justification in that. Historical records show that Islam and Christianity played an important role in enslavement in Africa. The Arab-controlled Trans-Saharan slave trade helped to initialize slave trading on the continent. They set it up. And during the age of expedition, quote unquote, European Christians witnessed caravans loaded with Africans en route to the Middle East. Others arriving much later in West Africa observed slavery in African societies, leading them to assume that African enslavement was intrinsic to the continent. How dare you look at someone's culture and see that they had slaves and take it upon yourself. See what I'm saying about when you try to take a tradition from someplace else and place it somewhere else? It had nothing to do with what was going on. This was a completely different era by the most wicked caucasoids face of the planet, or since say face of the earth. And everybody wants to forget about it. Well, you're a Christian now. Let's let all bygones be gone. This is a new day. We new creatures. Let's move on. But your Yah does not forget. He does not forget. He visits the sins of the fathers, 3, 4, down to 3rd, 4th generation. Does it tell you he forgets? You're going to pay. You're starting to pay now. You may not realize. And I'm going to finish this in part 2, but let me get as far as I can get. The nerve. But I don't want to get off into a special tangent here. So here's these Christians. They took it upon themselves from what they saw that, hey, we can get some slaves for ourselves. Hey, it's just like Israel. We had slaves then too, and you can read about it from conquering lands or from indentured slaves to pay off debt. But nothing like happened in the and I know the Trans-Saharan was bad. Mostly it was dealing with women, which was horrible, mostly, and uh, it was completely evil. But nothing topped the transatlantic slave trade. Nothing as bad as the Saharan was. For many of these early European explorers, the Bible was not only regarded as infallible, it was also their primary resource tool and those looking for answers to explain differences. Looking for explanations to explain differences in ethnicity, culture, slavery. Genesis 9:24-27, which appeared to suggest that it was all a result of sin. Oh, okay. So if it's all a result of sin, I can do sin. I can sin on top of that sin. But that's the thinking. That's the Caucasoid psychosis. That you're up here and somehow those with dark skins are somewhere down here at the bottom of the in the cesspool of humanity. And you can just do with them as you please. Because after all, you're superior. And no one thinks like that but Satan himself. And that's what he thought. He said, I am somebody. I'm going to exalt myself. I'm going to get up there above the throne of the Almighty. I'm going to sit up in the congregation and let them worship me. I want to be worshiped too. Listen, he don't need to be worshiped. I'm the beautiful one here. I want to be worshiped. I'm so great. I'm so wonderful. I'm better than all the other angels. Look at me. I'm more pretty than all the other angels. Look, I got more going for me. I got pipes coming out of me. I'm making all this great music. I'm able to go on those fiery stones before the throne and do service. Look at me. I'm better than them. Oh boy. Where is he now? Yahusha said, I saw him. Looked like a shooting star. He looked like he was falling down to earth to me. I saw it. That's what happens to people that think they're so much better than another culture, another people, or another race, whatever you want to call it. Especially when you put yourself over Yah's people. Because when you set yourself over Yah's people, you set yourself over God, over Yah himself. Because we are the people of his pasture. We are the sheep of his pasture. And when you demean us and curse us, curse just has to fall upon you. And if it doesn't hit you, it will hit your generation somewhere down the line. It's true. You don't have to believe it. Just look around. That's why people are anxious. They see what's coming on the earth. They got one man, he's bombing blacks now over in Austin, Texas. Oh, yeah. Austin package bombs appears to be targeting prominent black families. They know their time is coming to an end. And you say y'all forgets? Y'all don't forget? I don't forget. Y'all's people don't forget. Those who you bless, he blesses you. Those who you curse. Just because we were under a curse don't mean that you had a right to curse us. You had a right to treat us in such low, degrading ways. animals don't act like that. Do you hear me, what I'm saying? And no, it is not forgotten. Am I angry? Probably seems like I'm angry with what was done. But I don't have a vendetta against anyone. I don't have to have. Yah has it. He gonna get you. He gonna get your children. He gonna get your children's children. He will get you for this. You will pay the penalty. You will pay the price. It's best that you confess. It's best that you lay your superiority down at the foot of Yah and truly repent so He can forgive you of your sin. Because all of those who sitting up in church, these so-called churches, and they clapping their hands and listen to this great music and this 20-minute sermon and they ain't saying too much of nothing, and all you thinking that all of your troubles are past and you're so white and holy, so gracious and warm. You're full of the devil, most of you, because you all got this idea that you're better than blacks. You all got this in you, born with it. It's rotten DNA. It's something that's wrong in there. And you got to get it out. And only one can get it out is y'all. You got to humble yourself. You don't know how to do that, do you? Supremacist groups, they don't know how to humble themselves. That's all they got, to think that they're better than y'all's people. Think about it and join me on the next part 2 of this series. Until next time, go with Yah. He's going with you if you do. Bye-bye.